Welcome back to the Pharmacy of Fools. You spend an absolute fortune on glowing chemical pills with side effects longer than a mortgage contract, completely ignoring the dirt outside your window. Let's look at the real medicine cabinet.
For decades, pharmaceutical corporations have engineered a massive dependency. They isolate natural compounds, synthesize them in a sterile lab, patent the chemical structure, and sell it back to you at a 10,000% markup. Today, we are bypassing the pharmacy entirely. Here are 30 scientifically verified, highly powerful natural remedies that don't just mimic expensive medications, they actively outperform them. It is time to face the uncompromising biological truth about what nature already perfected. Remedy 1. Turmeric and black pepper. You swallow massive handfuls of heavy, liver-taxing ibuprofen the moment your knees start to ache. These synthetic, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs systematically burn microscopic holes directly into your stomach lining over time. Instead, look at turmeric. It contains curcumin, a potently active natural compound that physically blocks the exact same inflammatory COX-2 enzymes in your agonizing joints that synthetic painkillers target. But there is a massive biological catch. Your liver naturally destroys curcumin before it can even reach your knees. By adding a tiny pinch of black pepper, which contains piperine, you decisively shut down that specific liver detoxification pathway temporarily. This skyrockets the absorption rate of the curcumin by an astonishing 2,000%. It is a highly engineered botanical strike team against severe arthritis, operating with absolute precision and a significantly lower risk of severe stomach bleeding compared to synthetic pills. Remedy 2. Tart cherry juice. When intense insomnia hits, you happily swallow heavy synthetic sleeping pills that completely hijack your central nervous system, leaving you feeling like a lethargic chemical zombie the entire next morning. You are completely ignoring the immense power of tart cherry juice. It is not just a sugary breakfast beverage. It is one of the only recognized, naturally occurring massive sources of raw phytomelatonin on the entire planet. Drinking it physically forces your brain's pineal gland to flawlessly regulate your sleep cycle without the horrific chemical hangover. Furthermore, if you suffer from the agonizing pain of gout, where microscopic, razor-sharp uric acid crystals relentlessly accumulate in your toe joints, tart cherry juice acts as a highly effective natural flush. It actively pushes these sharp shards directly out of your bloodstream through your kidneys, making it the absolute gold standard weapon against gout attacks. Remedy 3. Baking soda. At the very first sign of severe heartburn, you blindly chew on chalky antacids or take incredibly expensive proton pump inhibitors. These heavily marketed drugs permanently cripple your stomach's natural ability to produce acid, eventually leading to severe nutrient malabsorption and brittle, shattering bones. The uncompromising chemical reality is much simpler. Pure sodium bicarbonate, or common baking soda, is a highly alkaline powder. The exact moment it hits the agonizing, intensely burning hydrochloric acid splashing up your esophagus, it triggers a rapid, decisive chemical neutralization. It instantly, physically converts the dangerous stomach fire into salt water and carbon dioxide gas. While you must use it sparingly to avoid excess gas buildup, it completely extinguishes the internal inferno in exactly 30 seconds for a fraction of a single penny, leaving your long-term digestive capabilities perfectly intact. Remedy 4. White willow bark. You worship the tiny white aspirin pill as a magnificent triumph of modern synthetic medicine, completely forgetting that pharmaceutical corporations literally stole the exact chemical recipe directly from a tree. Commercial aspirin uses synthetic acetyl-salicylic acid, which relentlessly irritates the gastric mucosa, heavily increasing your risk of internal, silent bleeding in the gastrointestinal tract. White willow bark contains salicin, the original, ancient chemical blueprint. When you consume the raw bark, the salicin remains completely dormant and entirely harmless while sitting in your stomach. It is only when it reaches the lower intestines and the liver that your body highly efficiently, safely converts it into the exact active pain-crushing ingredient. It delivers the identical, powerful, headache-destroying relief with a drastically lower risk of harshly damaging your internal organs in the process. Remedy 5. Raw ginger. When brutal motion sickness or crippling nausea strikes, you instinctively grab expensive, over-the-counter antihistamines. Those artificial chemicals violently breach your blood-brain barrier, aggressively shutting down your central nervous system and leaving you as a completely exhausted, sleepwalking zombie. Fresh ginger root operates on a vastly superior, highly targeted biological level. It is densely packed with powerful, active compounds known as gingerols and shogaols. Instead of drugging your mind, these botanical agents completely bypass your brain. They travel straight to your gut, deploying as an impenetrable biological shield directly over your 5-HT3 receptors. By mechanically blocking these specific pathways, heavily concentrated in your digestive tract, they ruthlessly neutralize the physical trigger for vomiting right at ground zero. You achieve absolute, rapid relief from nausea while remaining perfectly alert and laser-focused, entirely avoiding the dangerous, heavily sedating crash of pharmaceutical traps. Remedy 6. Clove oil. When a severe, agonizing toothache strikes in the middle of the night, you desperately slather your gums in expensive synthetic benzocaine gels. These heavily marketed gels completely numb your entire face, wash away in seconds, and taste like highly toxic industrial runoff. Clove oil is an ancient, uncompromising, and vastly superior biological anesthetic. It contains massive, highly concentrated amounts of a volatile chemical called eugenol. When applied directly to an exposed, screaming dental nerve, eugenol doesn't just sit on the surface. It deeply penetrates the tissue and systematically numbs the voltage-gated sodium channels directly inside the nerve itself. It completely blocks the agonizing pain signals from ever reaching your brain, acting like a profound, hyper-efficient botanical freeze ray that professional dentists still actively use in modern clinical practices today. Remedy 7. Peppermint oil. If you suffer from the unpredictable misery of irritable bowel syndrome, traditional doctors will happily prescribe you a massive, expensive cocktail of chemical antispasmodics that cause severe dry mouth and blurred vision. Clinical gastroenterology, however, points directly to the targeted mechanical power of peppermint oil. When taken in an enteric-coated capsule that survives the stomach acid, a massive payload of highly concentrated menthol reaches your intestines. Here, it acts as a remarkably powerful, naturally occurring calcium channel blocker. It physically blocks calcium from entering the muscle cells of your colon. Without that calcium, the intensely cramping, smooth muscles of your digestive tract physically cannot contract, forcing the severe abdominal pain and dangerous intestinal spasms to instantly and completely surrender. Remedy 8. Manuka Honey. When a severe throat infection strikes, you desperately coat your throat in bright red, synthetic, cherry-flavored syrups that do absolutely nothing but temporarily drug your brain into ignoring the biological fire. Authentic Manuka honey, heavily sourced from New Zealand, is an entirely different biological weapon. It contains massive, clinically verified amounts of methylglyoxal, an incredibly potent antibacterial compound. It doesn't just soothingly coat the inflamed tissue, it actively, physically hunts down and rips apart the cellular walls of invading bacterial colonies. It completely neutralizes common bacterial throat infections, and when applied topically, it even destroys hospital-grade, multi-drug-resistant superbugs like MRSA. It is a thick, golden, uncompromising terminator designed to effectively treat severe throat infections and non-healing external wounds. Remedy 9. Psyllium husk. The pharmacy laxative aisle is a brilliantly disguised multi-billion-dollar corporate trap. You swallow harsh, synthetic chemical stimulants that harshly shock your bowel nerves to force a movement. Over time, this severe chemical abuse causes permanent, irreversible intestinal paralysis and absolute bodily dependency. Psyllium husk is an uncompromising, purely mechanical solution. It is pure, highly absorbent, heavily concentrated, soluble fiber. The exact moment it hits the natural water in your gut, it rapidly expands into a massive, thick, lubricating gel. It physically bulldozes through your internal plumbing like a heavy industrial broom, perfectly normalizing your digestive system and completely flushing out the toxic waste without introducing a single drop of dangerous, dependency-creating synthetic chemicals into your bloodstream. Remedy 10. Colloidal oatmeal. You routinely rub incredibly expensive synthetic cortisone steroid creams all over your severe eczema and rashes, fully aware that long-term use will permanently thin your skin barrier, making it fragile like wet tissue paper and chemically addicted to the drug. Colloidal oatmeal, which is simply raw oats ground into a microscopic, highly refined pharmaceutical-grade powder, is an officially FDA-recognized skin protectant. When mixed with water, it creates an incredibly thick, highly protective biological shield. Its naturally occurring beta-glucans and avenanthramides securely bind to your compromised skin, actively shutting down the inflammatory cytokine pathways. It physically locks in deep molecular moisture, crushing the severe, agonizing itching completely naturally, without a single drop of destructive synthetic steroids. Remedy 11. Hibiscus tea. When your doctor sees a slight elevation in your blood pressure, they immediately prescribe highly profitable synthetic ACE inhibitors that cause a persistent, agonizing dry cough and chronic fatigue. You completely ignore the potent cardiovascular power of hibiscus tea. This vibrant crimson flower contains massive, highly concentrated amounts of anthocyanins. Clinical trials prove that drinking it daily physically acts as a natural ACE inhibitor. It systematically relaxes the smooth muscles of your blood vessels, forcing them to widen and significantly dropping the immense physical pressure inside your cardiovascular system. It delivers a scientifically verified, highly efficient reduction in mild hypertension without chemically poisoning your kidneys or leaving you completely exhausted. Remedy 12. Tea tree oil. You harshly scorch your skin with severe synthetic benzoyl peroxide creams to fight acne, completely destroying your natural dermal barrier and causing painful chemical peeling. Tea tree oil is a relentless, uncompromising natural assassin. It contains a highly lethal, volatile compound known as terpenin 4-ol. When applied topically to your skin or infected nails, it doesn't just dry out the surface. It deeply penetrates the pores and systematically breaks down the cellular walls of the invading acne bacteria and deeply embedded fungal infections over time. It causes the infectious cells to leak their internal contents and neutralize, completely clearing the infection without systematically burning off the top layer of your face. Remedy 13. Capsaicin cream. If you suffer from severe nerve damage or joint pain, traditional medicine heavily numbs your entire brain with highly addictive synthetic opioids or heavy muscle relaxants. Capsaicin, the exact chemical compound that makes chili peppers hot, approaches pain with uncompromising biological intervention. When applied topically as a cream, it securely binds to the TRPV1 receptors in your skin. It decisively forces your nerves to completely deplete their supply of substance P, the critical chemical messenger that physically carries the pain signal to your brain. It literally blocks the communication bridge, completely shutting down chronic, agonizing pain at the exact local source without ever entering your bloodstream or drugging your mind. Remedy 14. Apple cider vinegar. The moment your blood sugar spikes, pharmaceutical companies are eagerly waiting to sell you incredibly expensive, lifelong metabolic medications like acarbose. They don't want you to know about the ruthless efficiency of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. It contains massive, highly concentrated amounts of pure acetic acid. If you drink a single tablespoon heavily diluted in water right before a massive carbohydrate meal, that acetic acid physically paralyzes the disaccharidase enzymes in your digestive tract. It effectively blocks your body from rapidly breaking down the complex starches into raw sugar, significantly blunting the massive glucose spike by up to 30%, keeping your insulin levels perfectly stable for pennies. Remedy 15. Fennel seeds. When agonizing abdominal bloating and severe trapped gas strike, you blindly swallow synthetic simethicone pills that simply pop bubbles but do absolutely nothing for the severe internal cramping. Raw fennel seeds contain a highly volatile, completely natural essential oil called anethole. When you thoroughly chew these tiny seeds, the anethole heavily coats your gastrointestinal tract. It acts as a rapid, potent antispasmodic, physically forcing the rigidly clamped, agonizing smooth muscles of your intestines to instantly relax. It mechanically forces the trapped gas to naturally expel itself from your body, completely deflating the painful abdominal pressure in a matter of minutes without a single synthetic chemical. Remedy 16. Valerian root. For crippling nighttime anxiety and mild panic attacks, psychiatrists heavily push incredibly dangerous, highly addictive synthetic benzodiazepines like Xanax or Valium that permanently rewire your brain chemistry. Valerian root is an ancient, uncompromising botanical tranquilizer. It contains massive, highly active amounts of valerianic acid. This powerful compound smoothly crosses your blood-brain barrier and directly interacts with the exact same GABA receptors as the heavily controlled prescription drugs. It physically prevents the breakdown of your brain's natural calming chemicals, forcing your severely overactive nervous system into a state of deep, heavy, peaceful sedation without the terrifying risk of withdrawal or chemical dependency. Remedy 17. Elderberry syrup. You feel a brutal flu virus coming on, and you rush to buy incredibly expensive synthetic antivirals like Tamiflu that cause severe nausea, terrifying hallucinations, and violent vomiting. Black elderberry syrup is a heavily researched, highly effective biological barricade. The dark purple berries are packed with powerful anthocyanins that actively target the specific viral spikes on the outside of the influenza virus. It physically binds to these infectious spikes, fundamentally preventing the virus from easily piercing through your healthy cell walls to replicate. It mechanically locks the virus outside the cell, significantly cutting the duration of the agonizing sickness in half without completely destroying your stomach in the process. Remedy 18. L-theanine. To force laser-like focus and crush severe daily stress, people routinely abuse highly dangerous synthetic amphetamines or chug toxic, heart-stopping energy drinks that leave them severely jittery. L-theanine is a magnificent, highly complex amino acid extracted directly from green tea leaves. It possesses the incredibly rare biological ability to smoothly cross the blood-brain barrier and physically alter your brain waves. It significantly spikes the production of alpha waves, the exact neurological frequency of deep, relaxed meditation, while simultaneously boosting dopamine. It delivers a massive, hyper-focused state of calm, sharp alertness, completely eliminating the chaotic mental static without a single drop of harsh synthetic stimulation. Remedy 19. Magnesium glycinate. You wake up screaming in the middle of the night with intensely agonizing, crippling muscle cramps in your calves, and you desperately reach for synthetic muscle relaxants. The uncompromising biological truth is that your muscles are simply begging for magnesium glycinate. Magnesium acts as nature's ultimate, potent calcium channel blocker. When calcium floods your muscle fibers, they contract. Without massive, adequate levels of highly bioavailable magnesium to physically push the calcium back out, the muscle remains locked in a state of agonizing, paralyzed tension. Taking this specific, highly absorbable mineral directly forces the rigidly clamped muscle tissue to instantly, heavily relax, ending the nighttime torture immediately. Remedy 20. Arnica. After a severe physical trauma or a deep tissue injury, you desperately rub toxic, synthetic diclofenac gels all over the dark, agonizing bruise, risking severe cardiovascular side effects as the chemicals enter your bloodstream. Arnica montana is a terrifyingly effective, uncompromising botanical trauma agent. It contains a highly active compound called helenoline, When applied topically to the severely crushed tissue, it systematically stimulates the local macrophage cells. These biological garbage collectors rapidly flood the injury site, physically breaking down and rapidly clearing away the trapped, coagulated blood that forms the massive dark bruise. It drastically accelerates the physical healing process and crushes the localized swelling immediately. Remedy 21. Raw garlic. When a severe bacterial infection strikes, traditional medicine eagerly bombards your entire system with heavily synthetic, broad-spectrum antibiotics. These drugs act like a nuclear bomb in your digestive tract, systematically destroying your healthy gut microbiome and leaving your immune system completely shattered. Raw, freshly crushed garlic deploys a highly potent, targeted natural defense agent known as allicin. The exact moment the raw garlic clove is physically crushed, a rapid enzymatic reaction instantly produces this sulfur compound. Allicin doesn't just poison bacteria, it physically rips through the impenetrable biofilms that heavily mutated superbugs use to shield themselves from modern penicillin. It acts as an uncompromising, naturally evolved defense that potently supports your immune system in neutralizing pathogens while leaving your essential intestinal flora perfectly intact. Remedy 22. Lemon balm. At the agonizing, tingling onset of a severe cold sore, you immediately rush to buy incredibly expensive synthetic acyclovir creams. These heavily marketed pharmaceutical ointments attempt to stop viral replication after the viral invasion has already severely damaged your tissue. Lemon balm, or Melissa officinalis, employs a completely different, highly preventative biological blockade. It is densely packed with heavily concentrated rosmarinic acid. When applied topically at the very first microscopic symptom, this powerful botanical extract securely binds directly to the specific cellular receptors on your lips. It acts as an impenetrable physical iron gate, decisively blocking the herpes simplex virus from ever attaching to your healthy cells to replicate. It effectively stops the agonizing outbreak completely dead in its tracks before the blister even physically forms. Remedy 23. Pumpkin seeds. As men age, the terrifying reality of an enlarged prostate sends millions running to the pharmacy for highly synthetic alpha blockers like Flomax. These heavy chemical drugs force your urinary tract to relax, but sharply drop your blood pressure, leaving you severely dizzy and chronically fatigued. Raw pumpkin seeds are an uncompromising, perfectly engineered nutritional weapon specifically targeting the male reproductive system. They are absolutely loaded with massive, highly bioavailable concentrations of zinc and specific plant compounds called phytosterols. These phytosterols act as a highly targeted biological inhibitor. They physically block the specific 5-alpha reductase enzyme responsible for converting standard testosterone into heavily inflammatory DHT. By systematically starving the prostate of the exact chemical fuel it uses to swell, they mechanically shrink the enlarged tissue and flawlessly restore normal urinary function without a single cardiovascular side effect. Remedy 24. Ceylon cinnamon. When your fasting blood glucose starts creeping dangerously high, the medical establishment is perfectly positioned to prescribe lifelong, highly synthetic metabolic medications like metformin that heavily disrupt your digestion. True, authentic Ceylon cinnamon is a completely different, highly potent metabolic optimizer. This ancient spice contains a massive, heavily concentrated payload of an active compound called cinnamaldehyde. When consumed with a heavy carbohydrate meal, this volatile chemical acts exactly like a highly trained biological key. It naturally forces the heavily resistant insulin receptors on your muscle cells to readily snap wide open. It mechanically pulls the massive, dangerous spikes of toxic sugar directly out of your bloodstream and forces it straight into your cells to be burned as raw energy. A mere quarter of a teaspoon delivers a highly efficient, scientifically verified blood sugar stabilization without the brutal gastric distress of pharmaceutical pills. Remedy 25. Activated charcoal. When severe food poisoning or toxic ingestion strikes, People blindly swallow bright pink, highly synthetic bismuth liquids that merely paralyze the intestinal muscles to temporarily stop diarrhea. This incredibly dangerous tactic actively traps the offending pathogens directly inside your body. Medical-grade activated charcoal is a profound, uncompromising physical extractor. It is essentially heavily carbonized wood that has been treated with extreme heat to create millions of microscopic, highly porous internal chambers. When this black powder enters your gastrointestinal tract, it does not chemically interact with your cells. Instead, it utilizes a massive physical phenomenon called adsorption. It acts as an incredibly powerful, inescapable molecular magnet, securely pulling agonizing bacterial toxins, chemical poisons, and trapped intestinal gases directly into its heavily armored pores. It tightly binds the poison, securely locking it away and physically escorting it completely out of your biological system. Remedy 26. Aloe vera. After suffering a severe blistering sunburn or a sudden intensely painful kitchen burn, you frantically coat your skin in expensive synthetic lidocaine sprays. These heavy pharmaceutical aerosols temporarily paralyze the surface nerves, but do absolutely nothing to repair the heavily damaged, agonizing tissue actively dying underneath. Pure, raw aloe vera gel from the inner leaf is a highly complex biological healing engine. It contains an incredibly dense, massive payload of an active polysaccharide called ace-mannan, heavily combined with natural salicylates. The moment it touches the agonizing burn, it doesn't just cool the skin. It dramatically accelerates the physical reproduction of your local fibroblast cells, forcefully jump-starting the heavy production of fresh collagen. It systematically repairs the severely burned cellular matrix from the inside out, delivering a scientifically verified, hyper-efficient tissue regeneration that no synthetic anesthetic spray could ever possibly mimic. Remedy 27. Eucalyptus steam. When severe sinus congestion leaves you absolutely unable to breathe, you desperately shoot highly addictive synthetic chemical decongestants directly up your nose. These heavily marketed sprays harshly constrict your blood vessels, providing temporary relief before causing a terrifying, permanent rebound effect that destroys your delicate nasal lining. Pure eucalyptus essential oil is an uncompromising, highly volatile botanical solvent. It contains massive, heavily concentrated amounts of a powerful chemical compound called 1,8-cineol. When you deliberately inhale this volatile oil through heavy, boiling steam, the cineol deeply penetrates your severely inflamed sinus cavities. It acts as a potent biological mucolytic, systematically breaking the heavy molecular bonds of the thick, infected mucus suffocating your airways. It thoroughly drains the heavy fluid and significantly reduces the agonizing tissue swelling, physically opening your respiratory pathways without ever creating a devastating chemical addiction. Remedy 28. Chamomile. To combat chronic, agonizing stress and a severely overactive mind at night, millions of people surrender to incredibly dangerous, heavily synthetic central nervous system depressants. These pharmaceutical sedatives heavily suppress brain activity, leaving you feeling drugged and chemically exhausted the next day. Highly concentrated chamomile extract is a completely different, perfectly engineered neurological switch. The tiny, unassuming flowers contain massive, clinically significant levels of a powerful antioxidant called apigenin. When consumed in a heavy, highly concentrated dose, this complex chemical readily crosses the blood-brain barrier. It precisely targets and binds directly to the exact same highly specific GABA receptors in your brain that synthetic tranquilizers target. It physically triggers an intense, overwhelming wave of calming neurological signals, mechanically shutting down the chaotic, racing thoughts and forcing your body into a state of deep, peaceful sedation without a single drop of the horrific chemical hangover. Remedy 29. Black cohosh. When the intensely disruptive hot flashes of menopause strike, the modern medical establishment immediately pushes heavily controversial synthetic hormone replacement therapy. Pumping your body full of highly artificial, laboratory-engineered hormones dramatically increases your terrifying risk of severe blood clots and aggressive cellular mutations. Black cohosh is an uncompromising, highly researched botanical modulator. The heavy, dark roots of this ancient plant contain a massive payload of powerful phytoestrogens and complex chemical compounds that potently interact directly with the serotonin receptors in your brain. It physically targets the hypothalamus, your body's internal biological thermostat, which has gone completely chaotic due to dropping estrogen levels. It systematically stabilizes the erratically misfiring temperature controls, significantly crushing the severe frequency and intense severity of the agonizing hot flashes using a highly effective botanical mechanism without pumping synthetic hormones into your bloodstream. Remedy 30. Saline nasal rinse. At the very first sign of a severely irritating allergic reaction, you blindly swallow heavy, highly synthetic antihistamine pills. These pharmaceutical drugs heavily suppress your entire immune response, severely drying out your mouth and leaving you dangerously drowsy for the entire day. The uncompromising, purely mechanical alternative is a high-volume, saline nasal rinse. Instead of waiting for the microscopic pollen, toxic dust, and heavily persistent allergens to systematically attack your immune system, you physically wash them out. Pumping a massive, heavy flow of perfectly balanced, warm salt water directly through your nasal passages acts as a decisive internal biological power washer. It thoroughly dislodges and physically ejects the trapped, agonizing irritants completely out of your body before the histamine reaction ever even physically begins. It is an absolutely flawless, brutally efficient mechanical solution that completely eliminates the need for heavily sedating chemical drugs. The pharmaceutical industry relies on your dependency to fuel their empire. It's time to stop blindly swallowing their expensive, synthetic marketing and reclaim your biological independence using nature's own uncompromising pharmacy.
Before you hand over another stack of cash for a bottle of chemical side effects, check your kitchen cabinet. Nature doesn't need a billion-dollar patent. Smash that subscribe button, comment which of these 30 biological weapons you're deploying first, and stay paranoid.